Eden, are we turning this one on over here? Do you need to turn this on?
I'd like to call the meeting, Monday, June 10th, 2024, meeting of the Lorain School Board to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Nazario. Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognition of visitors shouldn't take long. Seeing none, first hearing of the public. Seeing none, need a motion to approve or amend the meeting minutes from May 28th, the special meeting, waiving the right to read them.
I'll support.
Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
Any old business? Seeing none, reports and recommendations of the treasurer.
I have items 8.01 and 8.02 for approval.
Discussion?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Reports and recommendations of the superintendent. Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me. I'd like the board to consider for approval items 9.01 to 9.17, personnel matters.
Discussion. None?
A motion?
Motion?
I'll make the motion. Support.
Roll call?
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval items 10.01 to 10.04, operations matters.
So moved. Support.
Roll call?
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
And before I hand out the microphone, I would like to just two quick updates.
Your section had 15 items.
10 point.
9.01 to 9:15.
Because we added,
I apologize, give me 1 second.
we probably have to do 14 and 15, so when we stopped,
Oh, I have the 17.
9.
Yep, I have 901 to 917. Nope, I said 917, but you're correct. What I've got on here is a 9. But these are the two that we added, I believe. The contract with,
And those went, I think those ones are under 10.01, not under the 9 section, so I have, I'm showing.
and you've got the updated ones, does it go up to 9.15?
9.15, and then 10 goes from 10.1 to 10.4.
Gotcha. I would like to
Sorry about
reframe, no, that's fine, I'm sure it's my fault. I'd like to reframe my operations items to 9.01 to 9.15. I believe I got a typo on one of my sheets.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Thank you, Tia, and I apologize for the miscommunication on my part. Couple things before I pass on the microphone. Number one, we had a beautiful graduation ceremony last week. It was a Crusher Stadium, only because our stadium is under construction. We had 432 graduates, and during that ceremony, we also recognized students with 45 associate's degrees, in addition to their high school diplomas. Amazing student speeches, gorgeous night, an absolutely beautiful night. Unfortunately, and everyone's read about it, at the end of the night, it's about 45 minutes afterwards, there was some scuttles out in the parking lot. Those issues have been addressed, but just very, very clearly, we had 430 plus students who were not involved in a fight. This does not represent who we are as a community or as a school district. And I just want to focus on the greatness and the great things that happened. The stadium was packed. The bleachers were full, the field was full, and it was an absolutely amazing night. So again, I want to thank our students, our parents, our staff, our high school teachers, our administrators, support staff, for doing all they did to get our kids across the stage. And I think the statistic that is preliminary, but I believe it's going to get even higher as opposed to lower, is the fact that this was probably our highest graduation rate in a generation, in decades. And again, that comes as a result of the hard work of the people involved, but also as a result of a very, very solid plan that we are implementing and making sure that we're taking care of our kids. So I just want to say thanks to the other folks at this table for all that you've done to get us to this point. Truly appreciate your leadership, and we're excited about what happens next. But those numbers, it was 82% at the high school graduation rate, 66% at the alternative school, which is Success Academy. And both of those are highs with an average of 80%. And the numbers to be added are students who just missed the deadline of graduation date to finish the requirements for graduation, who have over the summer to be counted in those numbers. So again, I just want to applaud everybody for all they've done and continue to work together on making sure good things happen for our children and their families. But I'd also like to give an update. Obviously, cell phones, the governor brought it up recently. Our staff has brought it up a number of times. I've heard from parents, community members, and we are looking at the policy at the request of the board to find out what makes the most sense for us moving forward. We started that process with surveying our staff, our parents, and our children. And these are all the data. We have no input, no recommendation. This is fresh off the press. This data, we closed down the survey on Friday, and as of right now, we just want to give you raw results, and we will continue to work together to figure out what makes sense and make a recommendation to the board sometime over the summer. But Ross, if you could walk us through what folks had to say, please.
Yeah, so we'll just start with our staff survey results. So we surveyed during the course of last week. We had 216 responses from our staff members. You can see just the breakdown by the high school and then our middle schools and Success Academy. We had a really good participation rate in this survey. So questions that we asked our staff: how do you use cell phones as part of your instruction? About 81% said they do not use cell phones as part of instruction. When do students most need to use their phones? And we asked the same question to our families and our students, and we'll show those results here in a few minutes. But before and after school clearly came up. Very little need during the school day from our staff perspective. On average, how much time per class do you spend addressing student misuse of phones? And this purple here is more than 7 minutes. And then the green is 5 to 7 minutes, the yellow is 3 to 5 minutes, the red is 1 to 3 minutes, and the blue is 0 minutes. From your perspective, how do students having phones in class affect learning? 86% of our staff members at the middle schools and high schools said it badly harms learning. 11.5% said it slightly harms learning, which does not leave very many percent to say it doesn't help or harm or helps. How often do you believe comments, videos, posts from students on social media could cause problems at school? 44% of our staff said always, 48.8% said often, and 6.9% said sometimes. Our staff very concerned about social media and it flowing into school. And then, have you been directly involved in or witnessed a social media post, chat, video, or group chat that caused incident in school? And 69% of our staff members said yes. How do students having phones at school affect safety, student safety? 57.6% said it makes school much less safe. 24% said a little less safe. And then 15.2% said it doesn't really impact it either way. And then we asked, do you agree that we should create policy that greater restricts cell phone use in school? 86.2% of our staff said they strongly agree with that. 12.9% said they agree. And then we asked about, do we need to provide education to students and then families in the next one. 86.6% said, yep, we should provide education on the impact of cell phone social media use to students, and then 93% said yes to staff. So that was our staff perspective. Then our family perspective, we had 231 respond to this survey. And again, we had a nice breakdown across our high school and then the 3 middle schools. And a good breakdown across each of the grades from 6 through 12 as well. So very similar questions, if not the exact same question in some cases. When does your child most need to use their phone? Same pattern as our staff said, before and after school being the largest number of time. Again, from your perspective, how do students having phones in class affect learning? 41% of our families said badly harms learning, 20.5% said it slightly harms learning, and then 25% said it doesn't really help or harm. How often do you believe comments, videos, posts from students on social media cause problems at school? 33% said always, 26.6% said often. We've got a little larger percent here that say sometimes. So not quite as strong as our staff on this one, but again, the majority of our families are still concerned about social media causing problems at school. 41% of our families have been directly involved in or witnessed a social media post that caused an incident at school. On safety, our families do not follow the same pattern as our staff. So having phones at school affects student safety. 21.3%, 11.6% believe it makes school a little less safe or much less safe. 30% say neither safer nor less safe. And then 22.7% and 14.7% believe that it makes school a little safer, much safer. Our families do believe that we should create policy that greatly restricts student cell phone use in school. 33% said they strongly agree with that. 20.5% said they agree. You can see the disagrees here. And our families also believe that we should provide education to students. So 78.6% said yes to that. And to families, 67.8% said yes to that as well. And then for students, we had 639 responses. Again, good.
Which is an incredible number, especially last week of school.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
when you consider this was the last week of school. Yeah, no, our principals did and staff did a great job making sure that our students had access to and completed the survey. The pattern is similar here with when you most need to use your phone, but our students think they need to use their phone a little more during the school day than the families and certainly our staff do. Before and after school being the largest percents again. From your perspective, how do students having phones in class affect learning? Our students are not quite the same here with our staff and with our families. 11% saying it badly harms learning. 29% say it does slightly harm learning. 37% saying it neither helps nor harms. And then 14.9 and 8.1% saying it actually can help a little bit or help a lot. For social media, the first question, how often do comments, videos, posts on social media cause problems at school? 8% and about 23% say always or often. And then a large percent, 35%, saying just sometimes. And then the rarely and never. And have you been directly involved or witnessed a social media post? 30% said yes. And then for student safety, our students do not share the same opinion here as our staff do. So for them, they believe only 4% believe that it makes school much less safe, and 14% said a little less safe. 42% said really doesn't help or harm. And then you can see the percents for a little safer and much safer. And then do they believe, students believe that we need to provide education to students on the impact of cell phone and social media use? 44% said yes. And when we asked their families, perhaps not ironically, 37% said yes. So these are just our results. As Dr. Graham said, we're not posing any action at this point, but we just closed the survey on Friday last week, and these are now our results for us to start wrestling with.
From the student perspective, their first thing was that they thought they did need them more than the parents in the community. Did they say why they needed them more?
We didn't ask anything qualitative. Yeah, it was just these are the only questions here. Yeah, that we asked.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the status of the proposed law? Are we,
The status of the proposed law is that we should be more restrictive. There's no definition of what that means. We have to have a a policy in place by July of '25. Our current policy allows us to be restrictive, so I believe our current policy would fit the expectations of the state. But we were asked to look at this a little deeper to find out what makes the most sense for Lorain City Schools. And to Ross's point, we've got no recommendations, and I think the word transparency is overused, but we wanted people to see what we see when we see it, so we'll figure this stuff out together. Our next steps, we're currently doing, I wouldn't say a book study, but coincidentally, a lot of us are reading the same book that addresses some of this stuff and speaks specifically to the effects of cell phone usage, benefits and hindrance. And we'll do some other research, and we'll align or combine our staff, student, and family experiences and beliefs with research and come up with something that we think makes sense. And obviously, policy is driven by board, and we'll provide you information and follow your lead.
Okay, very good.
The one stat that I seen on there, especially during
Anxious
the time
times.
wasted by the teachers, I mean, I thought that was important. I mean, the worst thing you can do is waste your time in school, so, I mean, I thought that was,
Yeah, it's 48.8% of our staff said that on average, they spend per class more than 7 minutes addressing student misuse of phones.
the present policy we have, and I have read it, I mean, it seems like there's a lot to it, but the whole thing is how it can be enforced, as with any of this.
Right.
Is how you can actually enforce it, and that's what I think we gotta come up with this summer. Is what are we gonna do to
Yeah, the
help
what
make
if.
things better and enforce it.
Right? Agreed.
The what if.
Yeah, the enforcing, it's also a different challenge, but once you have a policy that 6,000 students aren't used to, there's a learning curve. So there's distraction, disruption regardless, at the beginning anyway, if that's the path that you choose to take. So again, we'll provide you with a bunch of information, sit down with you and follow your lead.
Would this be in enough time to go out and, we put out a student handbook, right?
Yes.
I mean, like to see things in writing. So hopefully we get there before school starts.
Hopefully
Agreed.
we can get our student handbook needs updated, correct, with our policies that we have just approved and then the handbook versus what's online. There's a little confusion.
Yep.
I'll defer to Michael Scott on that one. Michael, I know you're taking a look at, you and Stephen are making sure that's accurate. And one of the beauties of being in 2024 is it's electronic. So it's much easier to make the changes and the updates along the way. But I'm sorry.
Yep, the goal is, obviously before everyone comes back in August, before administrators come back, there will be something brought to the board, and you can get your eyes on that as well. Yeah, we're working on, every year, there's annual reviews, and this is
Do we still
part of that.
Still paper copy that stuff? or-
No,
Yes.
well, it's available online, and we are talking with our administrators, to make sure. And then when people need to have access, hard copy, we can make that available. But the idea is to make it as, because things can change during the course of a year.
Right.
A policy can be updated,
Yeah.
and we're not necessarily going to print a new version every time a policy is updated. So we are moving in that direction.
Sure.
There were some things that were caught in this year that we're addressing. And then obviously with our switch to Neola, there were, there's some subtleties that we have to make sure that we're adjusting. So we're adjusting appropriately. We just had a meeting with the school administrators on the 29th of May to kind of talk about that. They've been sharing some insights on some things that need to also be adjusted. But I think we're in good shape. We had a big overhaul the last couple years, in transitioning to online fully last year was a big deal for us. So, yeah, we're on track.
Nice, thank you.
And the hard copies are actually very expensive, and since every student has an electronic device, there's some logic there, and it's much
Well-
easier to find because you can do a search.
And
Yeah.
and the way our communications team has set it up too, it can be translated via our website. So it's not a PDF that is hard to, you can't translate, but it's like it's dragged down tiles that can be translated to any language
Super.
that we want to. So that's also a
Yeah.
big upgrade from where we've been in the past. So.
Any new business?
I would just like to sort of add, and it's a new business, I guess. We had 16 graduates that earned the seal of biliteracy this
that's
year.
cool.
Pretty good.
That's
And not just in Spanish, there were
Mhm.
other languages as well.
May I address the board too and the community real quick on something?
Sure.
I just want to make sure it's not new business, but it is business that's around the corner. Credit recovery program, I want to make sure we had an opportunity to, for the summer, high school. It's on our Facebook page, our social media outlets, but it begins June 13th. There is an orientation on the 12th, so this is high school credit recovery. Orientation Wednesday, June 12th, 5:30, Lorain High School cafeteria, in which parents and students can learn about the expectations for the Lorain High School Summer Credit Recovery Program. You can also go on our Facebook page. If you're bus eligible, all the drops and pickups are on there as well. And summer school credit recovery runs June 13th through the 28th. I also think it's of note because there was questions about, is this an enrichment opportunity as well? Meaning, can I move ahead not just if I failed a class, can I accelerate? We're not there yet from that standpoint. We have a lot of, full disclosure, we have a lot of recovery that we need to do, and personnel-wise to that, but we are growing in that mindset of acceleration and being able to offer some things in the summer. We have some subtle opportunities, but the advertisement is for credit recovery. If for some reason you have some specific things that you'd like to talk, I would recommend calling Ms. Cheers at the high school or Mr. Jam at the high school and talk about those. Not closing the door, but this program was intended for credit recovery, so I wanted to make sure that was expressed to the community and the board as well.
How do students know if they need credit recovery?
The counselors at the end of the school year last year made it a point to reach out. If you were clearly deficient, those were conversations, and then if there were questionable classes that, you're on the border. So there were plenty of opportunities to engage. That information was out for a while. But the counselors, according to Ms. Cheers and Mr. Jama, did an extraordinary job of reaching out to students and being invitational to the recovery as well, so it wasn't just on the student to say, yeah, I want to do this. There was an invitational component as well.
Okay, very good.
I think that's all that I have for new old.
Committee reports, requests from board members? Second hearing of the public. Next board meeting will be Monday, June 26th. It is a special meeting at 3 p.m.
That's a Wednesday.
Monday is a Wednesday, June 26th. Excuse me. That's why it's special. Seeing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Mrs. Washington.
Yes.
Dr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.